In late 2011, Al Jazeera launched a groundbreaking new series called Africa Investigates. It put flesh on Al Jazeera's ambition to give voice to the voiceless. In a world first, this hard-hitting project gave some of Africa's best journalists the opportunity to pursue high-level investigative targets across the continent. They used their unique perspective and local knowledge to put corruption, exploitation and abuse under the spotlight. Following the success of the first series, Al Jazeera decided to bring Africa Investigates back to air. July 2014, the shores of Lake Elementaita in central Kenya. In this remote hotel, a select group of African journalists assembled for a confidential workshop. Over a fortnight, working with staff from production company Insight TWI, they'd be learning some new skills and preparing possible stories for the second series, The Africa Investigates Way.
I think what we're trying to do with Africa Investigates is to release the energy of local investigative journalists around the continent, because they're simply an underused resource.
3 years earlier, working undercover and using hidden cameras, the Africa Investigates team exposed elaborate frauds and criminal conspiracies, from child trafficking and political corruption to abuse of minorities. From dozens of applicants from across the continent, 8 journalists have made it this far. It's a golden opportunity to get their voices heard.
They are giving us a good platform to be able to tell the African stories. In the past, the Western media will always come to Africa and tell the African story without that vast knowledge. They don't understand the African culture, they don't understand how we live and how we do it.
Al Jazeera has always tried to be independent, so to speak. Unlike what we have back home, where we all see what I would call propaganda.
The investigative journalists in this region, in this continent, they want to now tell the stories by them. They know what is happening there, and I think they are in best position, to relay this, to the public.
Award-winning journalist Soria Samura is one of the prime movers behind Africa Investigates.
About 15 years ago, I started working with Western podcasters, and I was struggling as a journalist to try and tell the story of my continent in such a way that it will be from the African perspective, but it's understood and accepted by the West. So I knew that there are many, many other African journalists who are struggling like this, who have very powerful stories. So it was easy when Al Jazeera said, we will back you, we'll give you the support, we'll give you the support. For me, it is really a win-win situation that I have learned through the process, but now I'm helping my African colleagues to be able to tell their own stories on the world's biggest stage.
But telling those stories can be dangerous, especially when powerful figures are involved. In Series 1, Sorius revisited Liberia, where an earlier investigation into political corruption had landed him in jail.
This was the hotel where we stayed, and it was here that the police chief and his team came to arrest us.
After being brutally tortured in prison, Sorius only got his liberty back after an international campaign and some world-famous intervention.
Nelson Mandela confirmed that he had spoken to Liberian leader Charles Taylor as part of his efforts to secure the release of the journalists.
I would appeal to him to release them.
But few can count on such powerful backing. Session after session in Kenya, a key message was hammered home. The best way for these journalists, and those close to them, to be safe was to be prepared for what might go wrong and avoid unnecessary risks.
And I think it's not just you who you have to think about, it's also the people you work with, all around you, your colleagues, your newspapers, your broadcasters, but also the people that you put on camera.
What happens to you, your family, relatives, and spread people down the line if you do the story? And this is what the sessions are all about, to assess, if the story can come out and make a difference without me actually putting myself on the line.
The dark art of secret filming was also discussed. One of its masters, whose work has featured many times on Al Jazeera, was on hand with some tips.
My name is Anas Arimiyaw Anas. I'm an undercover journalist from Ghana.
For his own security, Anas never shows his face.
Well, I'm here as part of the preparation for the Africa Investigate series. I usually take care of the undercover session, and my job is to make sure that anybody who is handling a secret camera knows how to handle it and knows the dangers that come with handling such cameras.
Anas goes undercover to expose criminals on a regular basis. One successful sting highlighted the murky world of offshore banking.
That sometimes is a very good way. It gives an extra level so that they can't find anything about who the actual owner of the company is.
You can appreciate why I'm saying this, because my client is from Zimbabwe.
I can too.
And then he's the liaison officer between the Zimbabwean government and the rich diamond mines.
Yeah, we don't want to know that.
The dangers in this kind of journalism are multifaceted. There are political persecutions. There are laws that are inimical to press freedom in some of these African countries. There are businessmen with powerful allies with government who will come after you.
Today, I'm on my way to Ole in the Niger Delta district.
His talents would prove to be in much demand for this second series of Africa Investigates. One of the exposés eventually to make it to air involved fake doctors in Nigeria. The story was the brainchild of Rosemary Nwebeni, who wanted to target unqualified quacks selling bogus treatments to some of the poorest people in her country.
This is a case of typhoid and malaria. Wow. But his right eye, he has more of typhoid. He has more of typhoid. The right brain is affected.
Working alongside Anas, Rosemary successfully gathered enough evidence to see the fakes brought to justice. As the event progressed, and the journalists attended seminars on everything from safety to media law, they also prepared for a demanding cross-examination by the Al Jazeera commissioning.
The particular individual magistrate who conducted this case, have we found other instances where he has allegedly acted corruptly?
Yes, and many people have been asked for money. They say it's not just an isolated case.
There are lots of them.
There are lots of them. We're supposed to pitch our stories to feed into the narrative for an international audience. So it's required that our stories are much more nuanced and have that context that's going to attract an international audience. Now, we didn't have much of this experience. We didn't also have experience about how to go undercover, how to use security cameras, how to be meticulous in executing our work. So we've learned lots of stuff.
A few weeks later, Emmanuel Mutizabwa would be putting some of those hard-won skills to good use. In Uganda Temples of Injustice, he set out to investigate judicial corruption in his home country and caught police officers on camera taking bribes. Not all of these journalist stories made it to air this time, but 2 weeks in the company of their fellow professionals had given them an insight into the Africa Investigates way of doing things.
We became a team, and that in itself is very, very important for African journalists, because there's no way you can make it in Africa without a strong team like the one we have here.
My hope is that many of these journalists who joined us would be able to pick up their skills and replicate it in their various countries, so that the bad guys who create problems on our continent will know that there is another force whose mindset is not just to publish for people to read and be happy, but also publish to push them to jail, so that they stop creating problems on the continent.